We are live. Hi, everybody. I am Holly Gleason. I am a contributing editor at Pollstar, and I'm really lucky to walk up to Record Store Day, bring you Midland. About a year ago, we had them on the cover, and it was super exciting because we got to merge a lot of history about the Palomino nightclub in West Hollywood or North Hollywood, California, and a multiple Grammy nominee trio who understand how to take what was classic and vintage and make it very fresh and very contemporary. And the band wanted to go basically plug into the past, and they did an amazing show. And sneaky guys that they are, they ran tape, and on Saturday they are one night only live at the Palomino Club, will be available at your independent record stores. So let me do 30 seconds of history, and then we're going to go to the band. The Palomino Club opened in 1949. It would be considered a less than savory place to drink and bring your lady friends, which made it very popular with country music entertainers. Everybody played there. Merle Haggard, Buck Owens, Johnny Cash, Linda Ronstadt, John Fogerty. And then as time expanded, they went from the Charlie Riches and the Freddie Fenders to X, the Long Riders. Katie Lang did a major label showcase there, Emmylou Harris, the Pretenders, and on through punk, including Green Day, did a one night only. So when the club closed, it became an elder care facility. And they did a lot of work to make this happen, but we'll let the band tell you about that. Cam, since you lived how far away from the Palomino?
I grew up part of my life in Northridge, and my parents went to Granada High. So, you know, in LA with traffic, everything's an hour away, but as the crow flies, really just down the street from where North Hollywood, where the Palomino was.
Did your family say spend quality time there?
I don't know if she wants me to tell this story, but I'm going to say it anyway. My grandma said that, and I didn't really ask for a further explanation, but she said that she went there once after a movie shoot with a bunch of the stuntmen that were on the shoot, and they got pretty loaded and mixed blood. I don't know what that means. I think it has some sort of like voodoo reference to like cutting yourself and like mixing your blood together. This is a pretty benign story as it comes to my grandma, but that is the only real connection that I have to the Palomino, as it was pretty much shuttered and closed by the time I got into playing my first bands in like middle school.
Sure. But I mean, would you hear stories about shenanigans that went on at the Palomino other than the mixture of blood?
I mean, that was kind of where the high point of stories goes for me. But, you know, when you think of and you talk about the places to go, you know, and the, you know, marquee places that you would visit or play music in Los Angeles, the Roxy, the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Palomino, those are all said in the same breath, really. In fact, I think the Palomino precedes most of those, at least the Roxy.
Does.
So yeah, it's a legendary spot. But like I said, I think this probably applies to a lot of things for the guys and I, that most of the really cool things and the things that we aspired to do or sound like or kind of be like were long since gone by the time we started our band. So it was just this mythological place in the mind, the Palomino Club.
So when you all walked in at the start of the day when y'all played there, what did you think? Because it wasn't ready.
No, just when he described the smell.
Well, or the vision.
Yeah.
Well, when we pulled up, actually,
So we flew in. I think we flew into Burbank. I can't remember where we flew into, but when we flew up, or when we drove up to the outside, there was a hazmat van parked outside, and they were removing hazardous material from the doctor's office section of what is now the Palomino. It's kind of a retirement center / doctor's office, and it took a lot of work to turn it back into a honky tonk. And even, I mean, I even what probably was the backstage, in its heyday, is in a very weird place, for it to be a honky tonk. You have to walk directly through the audience to get to the stage.
That was how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
a very
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's maybe the only venue I've seen where, you can't walk onto the stage from the backstage or the green room. So that was unique. The neighborhood is unique. It's surrounded by transmission repair shops and, sort of industrial zone of the valley.
I think back in the day, and I could be wrong, there was a lot of studio workshopping going on in the North Valley up there. So that would be why I think a lot of people coming off, like off stage or out of work, a lot of Hollywood types kind of below the line would go and hang out there.
Yeah.
That isn't there anymore up in North Hollywood. But the hazardous waste, we actually petitioned to have it kept on site. And they said that it was going to be a liability for us. So, we tried to make it as seedy as the Palomino used to be, but really there's just legal ramifications to keeping biohazardous waste around.
There's so many punchlines, but we're not going there.
Cameron has a Toxic Avenger fantasy where he's exposed to biohazardous waste and he becomes a superhero.
By this, yeah.
Dear God. So when you guys walked out on stage, did it feel like this is historic ground?
At the time, Showtime, absolutely. And, a big nod and shout out to Jake Baisden and the entire team who worked tirelessly to the entire day to take something that just wasn't there. And by the time we took stage, there had been a complete transformation of the space. And I think Cameron has said this before, what is a honky tonk other than four walls and, and a bunch of booze and live music and a spirit, it doesn't need much. So it's amazing with some curtains and a bunch of, along with some custom neon signs that we had made for the night. Once you had that in place and the booze were flowing and the crowd was in there, we've said this before as well, it did really kind of feel like it was, to quote Cameron Duddy, quoting himself, it was a honky tonk seance. And we did really, it was a revival of the spirits. And for one night, the Palomino Club was alive and well and was open, and that spirit. And I think all of the years of history was kind of was coming back out of the walls, out of the foundation, and there was a magic in the air.
You guys really revere the history of country music.
Of music in general, yeah, of all music, not just country.
So, tell me how you guys bring that forward, because this record, when people go to Record Store Day, if they buy the record, what are they going to hear? What are the ghosts they're going to hear on your record?
Well, I mean, go ahead, Jess.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just you're gonna hear, Midland's influences, because there's three primary members and three contributing songwriters. We all come from a rather eclectic musical background. We have a lot I think Midland is the overlap in all of our taste to some degree, but you know, depending on what the song is, you know, you're going to be hearing Conway Twitty coming through stuff. You're going to be hearing Bruce Springsteen. You're going to be hearing, you know, Dwight Yoakam. You're going to be hearing, you know, the Eagles. You're going to be hearing some Stones. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that stuff is exuding, and the way that I think the way that we pay homage to music and history is to study it, to know it, and then to take cues from that, to borrow from it, and then make it our own, make it your own sound. Because I think that being derivative and just copying somebody is not a way to revere. I think that the way to revere is to take what's been done before and then advance it and make it your own. And I think that's what you're hearing. You know, I don't think that Midland's trying to be this this derivative, you know, vintage sounding band. You know, we want to take that sound and that spirit that kind of existed back then and make it make sense in the modern world.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that's interesting about you all is you pull everything forward, you make it fresh, you make it contemporary with a little bit of rock and roll attitude. Like, what are some of the rock influences y'all are pulling through this?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, gosh, it's hard to, it's kind of actually hard to delineate between the country and the rock and roll, because I think so much outside of Mark's, in my opinion, kind of classic not down the middle in a bad way, in a great way, country sounding voice, we approach a lot of the arrangements and the harmonies and just the playing in general with a kind of a reverence for rock and roll. And I think in our records, you're hearing 3 or more people. You know, we have a core band that we record with now too. So you're hearing all of those textures in the kind of cacophony of different, Luke Cutchin, for instance, our guitar player, he's born and raised in Texas, and he's a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, you know, and you can pick out licks that Luke has kind of fit in there on his own, his iterations of those things. And Jess, Jess always loved Lou Reed growing up, and I think that he's got a very straightforward rhythm style of playing guitar that is reminiscent of that type of playing. You know, I think, I don't know how I bastardized any version of what I grew up playing and made it into the band, but I do know I love playing like Motown and funk and kind of the busier bass lines and of bands like Shuggie Otis and that kind of just like crafty, fun sounding, like romping bass parts, you know. So all that stuff comes together, and if it works for the song, we will fit it in there, you know.
Of course. Jess, do you want to get in here and talk about your favorites or what you're bringing in?
I mean, outside of country, I mean, Bruce Springsteen's a really big one. A lot of people who kind of had feet in multiple worlds, you know, like Neil Young did, like Leonard Skinner did, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, back in the 60s and 70s could kind of play in different genres. The Rolling Stones is a giant influence on this band, you know, and the Rolling Stones could really play anything from blues to country.
The Beatles too. I mean, if you look at what the Beatles did, I mean, they were shifting from genres and could kind of pull it off as well.
Oh, yeah, they did Act Naturally, right? What could be more country, and then what could be more psychedelic than Strawberry Fields? And the other thing that I don't know that people know about you guys, one of your superpowers, every one of you had your own band. You're all frontmen. I mean, Mark, you're obviously the frontman, but like Jess, what made you decide that you wanted to throw in with two other guys? Because that's a big decision.
Well, I believed in Cameron and Mark, and I believed in myself. And I thought that, if I can think back to before we, really started Midland and it was like a concept, I really thought that it would be unstoppable if the three of us got together. And that's because I believed in the weird chemistry that each of our strong points would, how it would come together in this alchemy, and there's just something that works, there's a tension and a greatness, between the three of us, and we all come from different places, and we meet in the middle, that's where the band name comes from. That's what everything we do comes from, is that stew of the three of us. It's, I don't know. We've been asked about it for.
Well, it started off as Midland stew, and then we dropped the stew.
No.
Because I mean, it is a big thing. And Jess, you owned a vintage clothing store too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one of you guys owned the vintage store?
I did, yeah, for a short time.
So there's also sort of this sense of, and all of you guys can jump in, presentation is part of what you all do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between like overthinking it and that coming off as kind of too premeditated, and that kind of underthinking it, right? And looking like you just kind of threw everything on together. When it comes to albums, but look, there's visual presentation and there's sonic presentation, and some instances and some things require more thought and care, and then there's some nights when you're in the middle of a tour on a 4-month run, and you're like, one guy shows up on stage in a sequins jacket and another guy's wearing a cutoff shirt, So somehow, some way, it always makes sense to me in my mind. And I think that's probably because we would never wear anything or do anything that wasn't authentic to ourselves, and to us. We care a lot about the artwork, on the albums, the way that the albums are recorded, the way that they sound, everything from snare tones to, to boot cut, jeans. It's all kind of like been discussed it's mostly in a lighthearted way, just because we like those things. Those are the things that occupy our brains on any given day, on any given moment, It's a nice
an appreciation for visual and sonic aesthetic. It's an interest in all things kind of creative and design, right?
Right. Well, I guess that's what I was trying to get you to talk about, is the fact that for you, creative doesn't just end with the guitar tone or the hook of the song. For you, every creative opportunity.
You can look at our backgrounds. Like, we've been involved in
just look at Mark's background right now. It's a great shingled siding
from the 70s.
Very well procured.
We've had our hands in all different aspects of creativity, whether it be from doing creative direction to acting, to film work, to writing, procuring and running vintage stores, doing designs, all that stuff. It's just, I think that what makes us work is that we are all interested in the creative process and across many different formats. And I think that's what Midland is a aggregate of that, scratching that itch of like chasing on all the different facets, because it's something that we all take great interest in, and it's there. I don't think there's a single aspect of this band from the beginning of the songwriting to the, you know, to the production, to the recording, to the creative direction, the collecting of the track listing, to the promo, to the live stage show, to down to the outfits that we're wearing. Like this all comes from Jess, Cam, and I's kind of collective agreements on it all, you know. So there's no aspects of this band and music that we don't oversee or over obsess about, if you will.
Well, and that's, I mean, I think that's part of it. The Stones are the same way. I think Springsteen's the same way. I think, you know, name the band for the most part. So, you know, a lot of the people are really excited to hear the whole record. We're getting a lot of comments that like, we can't wait. Do you want to just take a second and talk about some of the songs that are on the record?
Yeah, I mean, this the vinyl, so the record that we're putting out,
Literally a record, yeah.
essentially we put out the album Let It Roll about a year ago, and toured that album. So the set list and sequencing that you're going to hear on the record, on the Live at the Palomino, is essentially what we were touring last year as a live set. So there's songs that have been slightly tweaked and reimagined from the first album, and there are obviously songs from the Let It Roll album. There may be a cover or two in there.
And there's this song.
Hit
Let me see.
Hit 'em.
Me. You guys ready?
Yes, hit 'em.
Oh.
I said hit it, Jess. It's a live show, so I think that there's some in between song banter, and The Spirit in the Room was recorded, I believe, and that's what makes this a special recording, and this is the reason why we decided to go all in and put this out. It's because it felt like a special moment, not only because of the Palomino, but also what that stirred out of us on stage and the way that we transmitted those songs that night.
Yeah, no, I was there. It was very sweaty. It was very loud. It was very loose. It was pretty greasy in a good way. And I think, you know, there's something that happens with really well-crafted songs live where it's like an accordion and it opens up and it opens out. You know, your other three guys are pretty beastly. They are not afraid to go for the edge and maybe keep going.
4 guys.
4? I'm short. I don't see everybody. You know that.
Yeah, there's a guy way deep in the back.
Everybody forgets Jeff Adams, the keyboard player. He's and small, but he's a monster.
Yeah. So, I mean, does it allow you guys when you're out on the road and playing hard to really push these songs and see like how far can we take them, or there are places where you know you can just hit the curve on 2 wheels?
Yeah, there's a language that's happening with a band that's been on the road kind of nonstop and playing kind of countless shows. You know, you're living with each other. Not only are you on stage and creating, but you know, you're living in a small, tight apartment that's traveling at 85 miles an hour down the road, and there becomes this you know, basically a telepathy that develops when a band is really tight, and when everybody's kind of in the moment. It just takes no more than a glance for somebody to take an extra bar or something, you know, or everybody's realizing that Luke's on a tear, you know, we're going to go an extra measure. And yeah, we take pride in that. And I often will go on some sort of a tangent and, you know, address the audience. And I know I don't need to like count the band back in. It's just as simple as like I don't know. It's just like a movement and everybody's right back in. And I think as a musician, that's when it kind of becomes like jazz, you know, and there is this language that's being spoken without saying a thing. And I think those are the moments that as musicians, we kind of live for. And that was, fortunately, somebody hit record. And we captured that night, and that's kind of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Or listening to, I guess. You're not seeing with your ears.
Will you be listening Saturday when you can get a copy of the double disc vinyl, but you're also dropping for the Record Store Day site a 30-minute kind of live documentary?
Yeah. My brother and a couple of our buddies from Los Angeles came, and we decided if we were going to record, we might as well have visually caught it all. And worst case scenario, just throw it in the trash can, but it kind of worked out for us. So yeah, there's a visual aspect to it.
That's sort of exciting. Can I just go ahead and out you and tell everybody about your other life? Big video director guy.
Yes, I moonlight as I love painting houses. So what I do is I'll get up very early in the morning and I'll paint your house, whether you've hired me to do it or not.
Right.
And I'm the it's some sort of bandit, but I'm trying to do it in an effort to create beauty in Dripping Springs. So, Jess, what color is your house right now?
We call him Sherman Appleseed, and that's actually a combination of Sherman Williams and Johnny Appleseed. Because
right.
he spreads the paint around. So
yeah.
And how many MTV Video of the Year awards have you won? Oh yeah, that other life.
Oh, a couple. There's been a few awards. I got really lucky early on with my music video career. I was able to work with a lot of really talented people on the come up. So that seems like a lifetime ago.
It was.
And then he ruined his life and joined Midland.
Yeah. So because you were working at that level of rock and roll and funk, and do you think it gives you guys an extra license or a little bit more freedom to take country music places maybe it's not going on its own?
Man, it has gone in some places, let me tell you. I think because of where it's been in the last decade or so, it may feel like we're taking it in new and uncharted places, but realistically, I think we're but we're playing the music that is like or closer to the music and country music, rock and roll that we grew up listening to. So sequentially, I'm not sure it's it's a new stew, as Jess put it, iteration of the types of music that we listen to. I do know because there's three of us, it is likely easier to do things than it would be if there was just one of us, because we're three grown men. And when we have our heart set on something or a mindset on an agenda or a thing, it's quite unstoppable. That's definitely an advantage I've acknowledged and noticed, that we have power in numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys also, you aren't afraid to be a little bit naughty, right? You're not afraid to go with some of the more adult themes. Mr. Lonely, like you're the cleanup man for every girl that needs a little some. Cheating songs, I hear the research is starting to come in on cheating songs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Remember, I actually listened to these records.
Well, look, we were not afraid to live a life before we got married. And so we've got plenty of mileage on the engine, and there's plenty to write about from where we came from in our younger, wilder days.
Let's just say Cameron's engine has been rebuilt many times. It's the odometer is turned over so many times that you don't know how many ones or twos or threes in the millions there are, it's
yeah.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah.
So is that why the first album was called Let It Roll?
Yeah, just let it roll.
Let it roll.
But I mean, I think that one of the things country music had a lot of back in the day, and remember, I was a kid going to the Palomino when Lucinda and Buddy Miller and Jim Lauderdale and Rosie Flores were all hanging out there. it was grown-up music, and it dealt with the way grown-ups get together. And whether you guys are sexual chew toys or not, because I'm sure you're not much, you understand that one of the real gifts of a honky tonk is that is where those kinds of shenanigans happen.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's the, like Urban Cowboy, a lot of people reference that movie because of how impactful it was on culture and how it brought country music, to the world. And where is that movie mostly set? In a honky tonk, and what's it about? It's about these stories of these people. That movie is kind of a classic country song in a movie form, and that's kind of, that's a lot of the stories that we tell in our music, that are influenced by our lives, and also, what you see on the road.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes the fun police create this sort of alternative campfire, bonfire, riverbank, field party reality, but that's not necessarily as real as some of what you guys are doing.
That could be someone else's reality, a more safer world and safer lifestyle. There's something for everybody. I like to sit down and watch a Disney movie every once in a while too, So there has to be, someone has to wear the black hat, someone has to wear the white hat. I think we're just more comfortable talking about the things that are perhaps a bit racier, because that was how we grew up. We were all, we just kind of troublemakers, as a lot of musicians are, contrarians, kind of anarchists, questioning the status quo. I mean, that's why you start a band in the beginning, right? I mean, that was, personally how I got to know Jess, because I didn't really know anybody but when I moved back down to LA, so you find these like-minded spirits. And if we had, there was just a lot of overlap. So that happens to be the kind of thing that we like to talk about and sing about and listen to.
And it's one of the things that I think made country music sort of musky back in the day. When Conway Twitty, musky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Sexy.
Yeah, no, because I can remember going to bars when I was at the Miami Herald writing about country music with my dad, and it would always be that awkward moment when the Conway Twitty song would happen. Time for me to go get a beer, Dad. You need anything? Because who wants to sit and listen to Love to Lay You Down with your father?
Right.
Not me.
Yeah, I think let's all raise our hand. No Love to Lay You Down with Dad. But I think you guys sort of went to a place of both sexual enjoyment and sexual freedom that maybe the format doesn't have right now. Aren't you glad you came back, Mark?
Yeah, I am. It's Cameron's dream is when my internet cuts out. Yeah, I think that isn't that kind of the genesis of rock and roll and really country. If you listen back to Hank Williams, Hank Williams is talking about betrayal. He was talking about cheating. He was talking about lust and love. And, I think these are important subjects. They're real things that happen in real life. And I think we're conveying the human experience. I think there's I think the art, the craft is crafting and it's tasteful, right? I think it's the art doesn't exist when you're just hitting it on top of the head, and that becomes something that I don't think we're interested in. I think there's always there's so many different ways to color something. You know what I mean? And there's a way to find you could address maybe something that is lewd or something that's it's kind of dark in a beautiful way sometimes.
Well, I don't think you guys are nasty. I just think you give grown up.
No, I don't think nasty. I just think that I think that's fine. I agree with you. I think there's room for that, and it should be. But I think at its core, it's just, again, trying to convey the human experience and touching all the different facets of life.
Well, look, I mean, look, Thomas Rhett is going to write is it Marry Me? Marry You? What was the name of that song? Yeah. What a great song. It's a beautiful song. It's so heartfelt, and you could tell it meant something to him when he wrote it. That is filling in that space for the song that needed to be written in the world of country music. I don't know if Midland could wear that dress, you know. I don't know if it would seem authentic coming out of our mouths. But then again, you know, if you listen to Bruce Springsteen's last record, there's still stories about blue collar people, but it's evolved from Darkness on the Edge of Town, you know. It's just a different worldview as you grow up. So maybe on the next record it'll be slightly different, as I'm sure it will be, as I hope it is.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys do look good in that short red dress.
Well, we work out enough.
Well, Holly, I would just like to say that we are rude, crude dudes with attitude. So you can
write that down if you would like.
You all are just so generous. One of the questions that's come in, and we've got people watching from the United Kingdom, from Texas, from Scotland, from Arizona, from DC, where you guys were Sunday, Washington Post magazine, big feature, Mexico, Ohio, Florida. So you're global.
All right.
Somebody wants to know, what are some of the most random or weird things that you've had happen during your shows?
Live show?
Yeah. No, dead show.
Or this show?
How about guys? Where were we? It was in like Ohio or Iowa. Remember that crazy fan that kept sneaking back into the show?
That was in Lincoln, outside.
What was
Lincoln,
her
Nebraska.
name?
We named her.
Let's just say Karen. Her name was Karen.
Karen. We named her Karen.
Yeah.
Was it Karen?
That was her. We named her Karen. That
Before
was
they
the interesting. Yeah, the interesting thing about
No, it
us
was
as
Angela.
a band as well.
It was Angela.
It was
Angela. That
Angela.
was her
Yeah.
real name. That's right.
Her name was
I'll
Angela.
add to this real quick, Holly, and to our fans. The interesting thing about Midland is, in the nature of our careers, one night we'll be playing at an arena with, you know, Tim McGraw, and another night as a fill-in date, we'll be playing at a 1,600 capacity honky tonk out in the middle of nowhere, you know. And we, as the Palomino Club, we're the band that feels comfortable, you know, in the Houston Rodeo, headlining that in front of 80,000 people, as we do when the fans are literally, you know, spitting on our boots, up close and personal in a honky tonk setting. So it's fun to kind of bounce forth, but every once in a while you get these spots that the security is not fantastic, and maybe somebody knows the security guard. So long story short, we meet this gal at the local hot wing spot, which was the only place we could get food. And he is already 6 or 7 drinks past where she should have ever gone.
Perfect.
An hour and a half before the show. And we're just sitting there we're running late because of interviews or whatever it was. And we're just trying to shove some food down our mouth so we can get back and get ready for the show. And, you know, it's just the guys sitting there. And actually Josh Desher, who's at my house right now, was there with us. And this gal just barges through and like kicks over and like knocks like 4 drinks over to her table. And she starts, Cameron and Jess will remember better, but she starts kind of affronting us, like asking who we are or whatever it was. I was like, we're nobody, man. We're just trying to eat our food and get out of here. And she must have known who we were because she was obviously going to the show. But, you know, there's a point to be polite, and then there's a point where, you know, the politeness drops off once you've been asked politely 3 or 4 times to please leave. And we had to get her removed by the manager. So sure enough, this gal shows up, another 3 or 4 drinks past the point where she should have never gone. Shows up to the show, and she has decided to make me like I am her nemesis, and her whole point and purpose is to try to ruin our show.
Oh, God.
And she's just screaming at me and pointing at me. I get her kicked out. Somehow she manages to sneak back in like 4 or 5 times, to the point where it completely disrupted the show. Kudos to you, Angela. You did it. By God. I don't know. To me, that's just a memory that jumps up.
You're giving it up.
Holly? It was my mom.
How about when your mom and her friends stole the sign in Dallas? That was like the opening night of our Let It Roll tour.
Yeah,
That
my
was one
mom
of the
was barred
greatest
from backstage for a year. So
That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life, actually.
Cameron's mom, we got a what do you call it, Cam?
step and
A
repeat.
little backdrop, a step and repeat. It's essentially just a backdrop, a vinyl backdrop that
For meet
has
and
our logo on it
Yeah.
for meet and greets, you know. And it was just at the beginning of like the Let It Roll cycle, and we had just spent, you know, a lot of money on this thing. It was our first official step and repeat backdrop. We were all proud of it. And the very first night it comes out, Cameron's mom and all of her friends show up, and you know they're partying like they are in the band. They're partying way harder than we are.
That's impressive.
And after the show, I just look out and I just happen to look my head up and I see Cameron's mom running down the street with our step and repeat, and she stole it, and we had to ban her
It was
for
like,
a
I
while.
thought you guys were leaving it here. Oh God, I mean, it does. The apple doesn't fall far. That's all I can say.
A lot of stuff happens on the road that is very strange. The entire experience, to be honest with you, just playing music and living with, you know, a crew of guys traveling in 2 buses down the road, a different location every morning you wake up. The whole thing is it's a crazy adventure, but it's very discombobulating at times. And, you know, the whole rush of performing your music with your best buddies on stage, the whole thing is strange, man. It's a strange and fortunate way to make a living. But I think if anybody came on the road with us for 3 or 4 days, I think their minds would be blown and they'd be so exhausted they'd go home and sleep for a week.
Promises. By the way, Cam, we've got some people that would like you to come by and paint their houses. Should we get addresses for you?
Actually, the whole thing is that I paint your house if you don't want me to paint your house.
On his own volition,
Yeah,
Holly.
it's not
It's his decision.
I'm like
Well-
Banksy.
Okay.
Banksy.
I thought if we could help you out, we are here to serve. Pollstar. It's about you, your happiness, your pleasure, your Palomino experience.
Actually, if you don't want your house painted,
Yeah,
send us your address.
What have you guys been doing during this shutdown? I think everybody kind of wants to know, how are people coping? That's a sad phase.
Gosh, there's just been so much. It seems like a lifetime. 5 months or so. We just kind of got ripped out of tour.
Yeah.
The last show that we played was opening the Houston Rodeo in front of like 80,000 people. It was insane. And then going from that to like coming out of Warp Speed was just like, at first it seemed like a gift because we felt like we were going to be able to catch our breath. And now, you know, it's this matter of when do we get to go back to work. So looking around, I live out in the country like Jess does, and there's just been so many things that were neglected for the 4 years that we've been on the road. So fixing those things was the first thing on the checklist for me. And then once those were fixed and nothing else was left, systematically breaking those things and then going back to fix them has been how I've been keeping busy. I had a baby. That was one thing that we did, which is exciting.
Yeah.
You co-produced an album coming out with Desure. Got a new song, Masochist, coming out tomorrow.
That's true. Holly, do you know Desure?
No.
What?
No.
Have we not talked about this?
No, you need to send me music, I guess.
Okay, we'll send it. This is our little brother. Desure was on tour with us for forever, and he's about to put out a new album that you have to hear.
I can't wait. You know how to find me.
On top of all the windmill fixing and stuff like that, we've actually been really busy. We've got a bunch of new music coming out. Of course, we've got the Live at the Palomino coming out. We're going to be releasing kind of a stream back-to-back releases and stuff coming up. So we've been writing like crazy, and then we're gonna release the first music that we ever cut together. Songs that we never really did anything They were essentially the experiment that led to the formation of this band out in a place called the Sonic Ranch in El Paso. And we, thanks to Cameron being a filmmaker, Cameron had the prowess to bring a video camera.
That's actually only half the story,
the genesis
Mark.
of this.
As far as the video footage goes, on day 2, it just stopped. There was way less than I had intended.
Because Cameron came out to just record his nest egg to pay for the recording, the breadth of it. We all chipped in, but Cameron took his wedding, his nest egg that was all the gifts from their wedding, and paid for the studio time. But then by the first 24 hours, Cameron was roped into this band, and his wife didn't find out for another. God bless you, Harper, who shot all of our most of the photos you see from Midland are done by Cameron's super talented wife, who I knew before Cameron. And all of a sudden, Cameron, she was married to a successful music director, to be married to a not successful musician playing in small honky tonks and bar bands, out of work. And then we've got another album that's going to be coming out that we've been writing for. We actually just wrote with our longtime collaborators this morning, wrote a beautiful song with Shane McAnally and Josh Osborne. And then we also launched a tequila company at the beginning of COVID called Insolito. So we have been busy, surprisingly.
Not surprisingly. You guys have too much native creative energy. It's make or explode, right, boys?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Pretty good.
But it's just people I don't think realize sometimes when you've got a creative engine, the engine has to run, or it locks up or explodes. And you guys have got plenty of oil and plenty of, I guess, tequila. So you got fluid to go.
Yeah.
We're well
lubricated. Holly.
Well, I've met you. So we're kind of almost to the end of our exciting time together. Someone has asked, do you guys, will there be drive-in shows in the interim? Is there any chance people can like back it in and flip up their yeah, well, they're
y'all can back it up. No, we're looking at doing some minor league baseball stadium shows, which is kind of what I think a number of people are looking at for this whole thing, you know, is being able to pull your car or truck into a minor league stadium and watch a concert. And hopefully this will be a thing that people can put together pretty soon, and we can start getting out there and playing some shows like that. It's a really exciting idea. That's what we're kind of working on right now, as far as like, you know, dipping our toe back out there and playing live and stuff like that, you know. Everybody's just trying to figure out how to do it, you know, how to do it safely, how to keep people safe and healthy, and bring the music back out on the road.
Because I think your fans want to see you guys, and I bet you want to go see your fans.
We want to see them, yeah. If you can't wait, Cameron's address is 555 Wood Boulevard.
You kids.
Boulevard.
Are you guys going to be maybe cruising by Waterloo tomorrow for Record Store Day?
Maybe.
Mask up, go down, see John.
Record Store Day is very important to us. It's a very special holiday, you know. Getting to release music on vinyls is one of the joys of being in a band, you know. It's like this magical thing, you know, getting your music put on a record, you know, that you can hold in your hand and put on the record player. I'm sure Cameron and Mark have their, you know, stories of what record stores mean to them. When I grew up in the country in Oregon. When I graduated high school, I moved into the city, into the big city of Portland, and I didn't know anybody. And there was a record store there called Everyday Music that was open 365 days a year until midnight.
Oh man.
And because I didn't know anybody and I didn't have anywhere to go, I would just go to this record store, and they had listening stations, and I would just, see a cover that looked interesting and just listen to these records, and discovered a lot of music in that time.
Kind of explains what you guys sound like. Cam, where are you going to be going down to the Do you have a record store day story for us?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to get out there. I'm like up to my ears in children right now. I will be listening to vinyl tomorrow all day long in the spirit of record store day. Obviously, like the guys, I love records. I love vinyl. I love looking at liner notes. I love sitting Indian style in front of the speakers and just getting into it. There was a place in the Bay Area that was a kind of the crown jewel of record stores to us out in the Berkeley, Oakland area called Rasputin's. So we would hop in somebody's car and
We went there.
go, yeah.
I was going to say, it's not a party until he takes his shirt off.
Oh, there's Mark.
Yeah, he's back. He's back and he's naked.
Too hot here.
Yes, Mark, it is.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, then, because you're basically just there as you are, tell us, where is your record store? Like, what is the one that launched you, the monster that you are?
Oh man, I've always been, I'm such a thrifty guy. I always loved finding records, going to like people's yard sales and stuff. I remember, and then honestly, my greatest record collection was given to me. I'm actually in Laguna Beach this summer. And I came out here when I was 19, and one of my best friend's parents, the Azels, they had this crazy collection that they'd been collecting for probably 30 years. And one day they cleaned out the garage, so I would have actually a proper, they were so tired of me sleeping on their couch. They cleaned out the garage, and when they cleaned it up, they had this, 350 records, and they didn't listen to records anymore. They had gotten really into CDs at that point. So I'd say the Azels gave me an incredible little collection there. But once I moved out to LA, back in the day, I'm old enough to remember Tower Records, and I used to live in West Hollywood, just down the way, and I used to walk up to Tower Records. I would get stoned, and I would go there and just listen to, not so gainfully and cheap and easy fix, and kind of go up there because sometimes you'd see, Beck would be like sitting next to you listening to records, and it was kind of like a place to go see musicians, because a lot of the musicians back then in the early 2000s were still kind of kicking around there, and they lived there. So, Tower Records for me was kind of I grew up, on a ranch in the middle of nowhere, just seeing movies about it, and once it was there, it was kind of like, it was like having Disneyland or something right next to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you never knew who you'd see at Tower on Sunset. I saw Elton there.
I saw Mick Fleetwood there.
Right, exactly. Tower on Sunset. Where everybody comes to the party. Jess, do you want to compete?
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was cool. R.I.P. Tower Records.
Jess saw Tower of Power there at Tower Records, oddly enough.
Yeah.
You kids.
No.
All right. You had a hard day of songwriting. You have given us an hour of your very precious, valuable time. Is there anything else you want to say to everyone who's tuned in for Pollstar Live?
Well, first of all, we want to thank you, Holly, for your time and for helping guide such a. Sorry, I'm in and out. I've got Hueys flying by. Thank you for guiding this conversation, and thanks to Pollstar for having us and for bringing attention to this record. And thank you to all of the record stores across this country that are still keeping it alive. And I think it's something I hope never goes away, because nothing sounds better on vinyl. For all you kids out there that don't own a vinyl player, go online, go Craigslist. You can find one cheap, and work on your record collection because it's something cool to do with your friends. It's cheap and easy, and it's kind of a necessary stage in the process of fandom when it comes to music.
Yes. Jess, Cam, anything to add?
I just, I wanted to just sum it up by saying that we are rude, crude dudes with attitude. And
And nobody can touch Cameron's mother.
No.
Just know your place, boys. Mama's got it.
Boys. Rude,
All right.
rude dudes with attitudes.
And Cam's mama. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. And thank everybody that tuned in. And who knows what's going to happen next week. Yeah. No, it's always fun seeing you guys.
Stay safe,
Thanks,
Holly.
Holly.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Thanks to all the fans for tuning in. We love you guys. We can't wait to get back at it in the live format. In the meanwhile, listen to this. It's the second best thing.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Take care.
Take
See
care.
y'all.